Right, welcome back. This is our yoke, and Susie showed you it the other day. This is going to be the main light in our kitchen. The rest of the lighting will probably have table lamps, standard lamps, that sort of thing. We quite like subtle lighting, although there's going to be nothing subtle about this. Anyway, so a yoke, as Susie explained, was used to put over the necks of oxen. They were harnessed to it, two at a time, and they would pull heavy farm machinery. But right, what I've got to do, I'm going to have one bulb hanging under here, one under here, and one in the centre. Okay, so the first thing I've got to do, I've got to give it some woodworm treatment. I can see signs of woodworm in it, so we need to make sure there's no woodworm active still. Once that's done, I need to drill holes through the two ends and through the centre so the wiring can come up. Now, and then of course I need to sand it, just to bring it up nice, and then oil it or whatever. Now I've got the three bulbs, they're all independent of each other, so the wires will come up and meet somewhere in the middle, then go up. Now one of the bulbs we're actually currently using in our kitchen, it's the only light we have, but it's attached to an old wire, but that wire's been made safe because it goes into the consumer board, the new consumer board. But I don't want to wire the other two up to that old wire just in case it overloads it. And I'm not an electrician, but fortunately Michael, our friend and electrician, he's coming in sometime in December to give us a day, maybe two if he's got time, and he's going to actually wire this up safely. So all I'm going to do today is prepare it, get the three bulbs, get the wires up, but only use the centre one until he's made it all safe. So that's the task, and I'm going to need to work out how to attach it to the ceiling. I don't want it swinging around, so I want it fairly rigid, but I'll work on that as I'm doing the rest. So that's the task for the moment. Sort this out. Well, now that that's wet, it'll give you an indication of roughly how it'll look when it's oiled up. So it'll go a darker colour. I think that'll go well with the beams. I think it'll look really lovely, actually. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing this up. Okay, right, I've hit a bit of a snag, which I hadn't really thought about until I'm looking at it now. So we've got a problem with it lining up. So the problem is this is now upside down, so the bulb would be actually effectively hanging from here. So one in this end, one in at the end nearest the camera, and one in the middle. Now I've marked roughly the centre of the two ends where the bulbs would be. So if I now line those up, just roughly, so the bulbs would come up against this, but of course we're now offset now. We've now got this massive gap because this is actually offset. So this bulb wouldn't line up with the two end ones, which would look a bit odd looking down the kitchen. So that's a problem. So the solution could be, instead of, I'll just turn it up the correct way now. So you'd have one bulb here in the centre. I could line up a bulb in each of these arches where the necks of the oxen would go. So you'd effectively have bulb there, bulb there, bulb there. But there wouldn't be the same height then. If I was to put it right up against the wood, these two bulbs would be higher than this, which wouldn't be a disaster, but it wouldn't quite look right. Now, I could hang these two slightly lower so you'd see the wires, because what I was going to do is drill a hole and put the fitting of the bulb up into the hole so you wouldn't see the fitting. Which I could still do on this one, and I could then hang these two down lower. See, these weren't designed to be lights. They were designed to be around oxen heads. Okay. Right, I've come up with a solution. Instead of, I'll show it on this end. Instead of coming out into this thick part at the end, I'm going to come out into this narrow part. I can drill down through there. That is the same height as here. And I'm going to come out here. So basically, it'll line up like that. So I'm just okay. So I need to drill those holes. Then once I've drilled those, I can sand it all down. Just line that up one more time just to make sure. Yeah. So bulb, bulb, bulb. Wow, that's looking really lovely. I mean, I don't know whether you'll see it. I'm starting to lose the light. It's just gone 6 o'clock in the evening. I haven't over sanded it, despite what you might think. I've left all this grain, this pattern there, and where it's different levels, you've still got the original patina on the wood and then some newer, fresher wood. And I think once that's oiled up, that'll look absolutely gorgeous. So this is basically how it will be on the ceiling. So that's the bit that people will see. So they'll see the sides, but they generally won't see the top. But I've still sanded that anyway, because just because you can't see it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So yeah, I think that's going to look absolutely lovely with all the different grain, and you know, there's a bit of woodworm at the ends, which I've sanded down and shaped the best I can. And then just do that. And then there's this old bit of leather on here, which I'll put a leather conditioner on. I'm sure that'll come up lovely. I presume it was there to stop any rubbing of the harnesses or something. I don't know, because there's not one on the other end, and I can't see any holes where it would have been nailed on. So anyway, I'm looking forward to oiling that up. I've got to find a way of fixing it onto the ceiling. It could just be chains, but I don't want it swinging around, although it shouldn't really. Yeah, I'll give that some thought overnight, but right now I'm starting to lose the light. But I'm pleased with that. I think that's good progress. And just to prove that I'm losing the light, that's the moon, not the sun. Okay, welcome back. It's the next day. Unfortunately, I've had to come inside because it's a bit wet and windy outside. So we've brought it into the kitchen where it's going to be hanging anyway. So we'll try and demonstrate, but it's got a bit dark. So anyway, the setup that we have now, we have the 3 bulbs that I'm envisaging we're going to use. And I've drilled the holes either end. So one in the middle and then one at either end. That's one option. The other option is we have the one in the middle, but we move the 2 outer ones into where the neck of the oxen would be. So we'll quickly just set that up now. Okay, so the other option is to put them, the outer 2 into these arches where the oxen's neck would be. And of course the advantage of this is you can play with the height of the bulbs. They don't necessarily all have to be at the same height. You can actually have the 2 outer ones higher up. So that's another option, which would be equally satisfying. But Susie is throwing a bit of a curved ball in, which I hadn't planned for. So would you now like to demonstrate what you were thinking?
I've been looking online.
Uh-oh.
And I like the idea of a oxen chandelier, that they call it.
Okay.
And it's different bulbs or lights. So
nothing like complicating matters.
so those would go at the end.
Yeah.
And then I got these in a mousse.
Uh-huh.
It might not work, I don't know.
Okay.
You make the tone down lower or the same or higher.
Okay, I'm going to try and get above this. Right, so I've just moved above. Sorry about the dark in here and the shadow, but it just gives you a little bit of better appreciation. Okay, so that's one option.
We can have these bulbs in a smaller version in there.
Yeah, okay, so we'll have 5 lights. Now, bearing in mind, for the last week or 2, we've only had this one bulb hanging, and it has illuminated the room almost sufficiently. So we can now have 5 now. I mean, they'll see us from Paris. We're going to end up sitting here in our sunglasses. Obviously not. Okay, I don't know. I wasn't expecting that. The words "top over the" spring to mind.
Well, it is a chateau.
Okay, that's the standard response I get. I don't know, love. I suppose we've got to hang it and see, but the good news is there are actually 2 holes already in these bits here.
See?
So I'm not having to drill anything.
It was made for it.
Although, now, as far as lining up, right, so if we're looking down it, along it, what has to line up and what doesn't? Well, presumably the 3 bulbs have to line up.
Not necessarily
the same height, but line up in a row.
One could be a bit lower.
Yeah, but looking along them.
Yeah.
So you want them all in a row, regardless of the height, yeah?
Yeah.
But the lanterns, as long as they're in a row with each other.
Yeah.
So basically, okay. So do you want me to do that? If it's no good, we'll
Go to plan B.
Oh.
Or plan A.
Have we actually got a plan A or plan B?
Well, plan A was the 3 bulbs.
Right. Plan B is the 5 bulbs.
Yeah.
So plan C?
I don't know yet.
We haven't. We're just making this up as we go along, aren't we?
Two bulbs.
Okay. And we're going to fix the yoke by chains. We've decided on that. 2 chains.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. Let me at least get on with that, and I need to oil it no matter what. And I'll get that hung up, and then we'll see where we end up. So there we have it. The 3 lights all in a row. Now, 1 or 2 things to point out. Don't worry about the dodgy wiring. That wiring is safe. I'm just waiting for Michael to come and sort the rest out, as we've already said. The middle bulb here has got a different fitting to the 2 outer ones. That's because when we bought that bulb, it came with the fitting, and then subsequently we bought the other 2 bulbs which didn't have the fitting. And so what we've done is we've taken, on the outer 2, we've taken 2 fittings from 3 lamps that we had. So the middle one will have the same fitting as the 2 outer ones. And Susie's talking about spraying them gold because that's what Susie does. I've found some chains. If you remember when I was clearing my workshop 2 or 3 weeks ago, on that desk that I found, amongst all that debris, there were some metal chains. So I took a hacksaw to them. So I'm hanging it up with chains. So I think that works quite nicely. I've waxed the yoke, and it's got a little bit lighter overnight. It'll probably need another wax, but it actually looks really good. I'm really pleased with how it's come out. And this piece of leather that I pointed out to you, I've put a conditioner on that. And of course, if you look at these 2 holes in the centre, well, the first one's in the centre, but this one's offset, and there's not one here. So I assume the reins went from there around that way. I don't know. I'm not an expert in yokes. So perhaps that's why that piece of leather's there, but I've kept it there because it's part of it. So there you go. That's the current configuration. Right. So we have a difference of opinion. Now, if we hang these up, I think they would have to be centred between the 2 bulbs, which means we can't put them up in the centre of the arch.
No.
Because otherwise the end becomes cluttered. So they won't be centred into the arch. And I'm firmly of the belief that what you see now is all we need to do. Less is more. It's beautiful, it's quirky. I like the modern bulbs to go with the old rustic look of it. I like the chains. Personally, nice idea, but I don't think it works. What's your opinion?
I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
We're going to mull this one over. But in the meantime, our lovely viewers are going to give us their opinion on this.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I just think we've done enough. I would accept a reconfiguring of the 3 bulbs, as we've discussed. I don't think that's necessary, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to look at it on video. I can't see it, of course, because I'm looking at the camera.
I'm trying to use up some of my lights and stuff because I've got so many.
Yeah, okay. Remind me to get my sunglasses out when we turn all this on.
The big question is, did Rolls manage to line up the bulbs properly? Thank you for watching.